Hey there, welcome to the channel. This is Cafenicus, and today's World of Warships video will feature a game in the Surrey, the Tier 7 Tech Tree Royal Navy Heavy Cruiser. This is a Tier 8 maximum game on the map Trap, with a carrier but only 2 battleships aside. Our team spawns south, and usually I like to start off at the G6 location. However, with a carrier in play, I feel that position becomes a bit easier to spot, so I'm heading to the islands at EF7 instead. As always, let's start with the strengths and weaknesses of the ship as we're moving into position. The Surrey has 8 203mm guns in 4 double turrets, 2 in front and 2 in the rear of the ship. These have a good reload speed of 12.5 seconds, and the turret traverse is really good as well. Both the AP and HE shells perform well. The HE shells are among the best for Tier 7 cruiser and do up to 3300 damage with a base 17% chance to light fires, while the max damage on AP is 4500. Your firing range is anemic, just like the earlier ships in this line, with a maximum range of only 14.8 kilometers with the upgraded FCS. However, you now have access to the spotter plane consumable, which can boost your range up over 17.7 kilometers while active, so that's definitely a plus factor. The Surrey also mounts effectively the same torpedoes that you get on the Devonshire, with the same speed and 8-kilometer range, but just a tad bit more damage. These aren't the nasty long-range IJN torpedoes, but will work in a pinch if you get enemy ships pushing into you. The AA seems decent enough, though mostly concentrated at short ranges of up to 2.5 kilometers. And the HP pool of 35.3k is in the middle of the pack for Tier 7 heavy cruisers. But what really makes the Surrey special in this regard is its ability to mount the repaired party consumable, which significantly boosts your maximum effective HP. And finally, the Surrey can boast of an excellent concealment of 9.7 kilometers with camo and captain skills, which is the best among the Tier 7 Tech Tree cruisers. However, this ship is also the slowest of the Tier 7 Tech Tree cruisers at 30 knots maximum base speed, and her rudder shift of 9.4 seconds makes it feel really sluggish when maneuvering to avoid shells. Her armor isn't great either, with 16mm on the extremities, which means you're not going to bounce any battleship caliber guns, and even some heavy cruiser guns will overmatch you bow in. So if you're taking fire from enemy cruisers, try to get at least a bit of an angle and hope they bounce off your belt. And if you're taking fire from enemy battleships, well, good luck with that. At this point, let's get back to the game. I haven't done very much in this game, other than take a couple of shots at an enemy destroyer and a cruiser from behind the cover of my island here at E7. I was hoping to be able to fire into the cap at B to help reset it, but there's been no vision of what's actually in the cap until now. The enemy destroyers pushing into C have also gotten me lit every time I fired my shells, so my starting position isn't going as well as I originally hoped. However, between the Vaclin and our Veneto pushing forward, we now have vision into the B cap, and I'm going to try to start shelling that pseudo Miyoko that's trying to cap it. I also preemptively switched to AP here, as I am expecting to get a broadside shot into the Southern Dragon if it pushes east of the island that he's hiding behind. My guns are just about turned around and ready to go, so all I'm doing is waiting for a clear shot. And once that Southern Dragon clears the island, we're going to fire away, and this is at just over 9 kilometers, and we get 11,000 damage with 2 citadels and successfully reset the cap. So yeah, the AB shells are really strong. These are 203mm guns after all. My second salvo though doesn't do as much damage as the dragon is turning away now, so I switch back to HE, which may have been a bad idea as my target is turning back to give me a broadside. We only get a couple of hits here and 2000 damage, and we're slowing down to make sure we can still fire on the dragon. Our next salvo actually shatters on his belt, and I think I probably aimed a bit too low here. I also glide too far forward, so only my rear guns can clear the island for the next salvo. But we get 3 hits in and a fire, and our Lexington is going to launch torpedoes at him, and we'll finish him off momentarily. So probably would have done a lot better with just AP in that engagement, to be honest. But still, that's one enemy cruiser down. So that's good work by our team, and things are looking good as we're ahead on ships and have better cap progress. Since B is clear, I'm going to try to help our Veneto against the enemy Albemarle, and that's my big sister at tier 8. And I don't think that charging in is a good idea here, Veneto. I switched to AP as he started out broadside, but of course the Albemarle turns in to face the Veneto. So I fire, and then switch back to HE. My second salvo is out, and I'm really hoping to take out his torpedo dupes. That's probably the only way to save my Veneto friend. We get a couple of hits in, but we fail to damage the torpedoes, and sure enough, our Veneto goes down to the torpedoes from that Albemarle. I do switch back to AP, and we do get a Citadel here, but we're not really doing enough damage. I don't think I'm leading enough here actually. I think the Surrey may actually have quite slow shell velocity, so it's throwing off my aim, as I'm really not used to these guns quite yet. And because of that, the Albemarle is going to be able to get into cover behind the island. Our team seems to have cleared out the A cap though, and should take it over momentarily, but the enemy has taken C in return. So I'm going to slowly push back up here to see if I can get a shot on the Albemarle once he comes out on the other side of that island. Our Vaclin is trying to get the B cap, but he's really low on HP as well, so hopefully the enemy CV or the Akizuki doesn't find him and take him out. I'm keeping my guns trained on that island and waiting for the CV planes to spot our target, and I'm also slowing down to make sure I can get my shots in. Come on, CV friend. Let's take out another cruiser together, shall we? We're waiting, and the CV does spot the Albemarle, but he's wedged too close to the islands for me to get a hit in. So instead, I'm going to start shooting at the enemy Vastras in C. I still had AP loaded on my first salvo, so I went ahead and cleared the barrels and then switched to HE. My first salvo disappeared into the abyss, so let's take better aim here. There we go, just in front of that destroyer. But it looks like I'm still not giving enough lead. And so we're going to aim again and fire our third salvo. And finally, we land a few hits on that enemy destroyer, and we do about 2.5k damage. But the Vastra starts to turn around, and I don't account for it in time, so our final salvo misses. That's terrible aim there by me, and I'm just not accounting for the slow shell travel time. So with nothing left to shoot at, I decide to fire at the enemy Grasp Bay instead. This is pretty close to our max range, well, the spotter plane notwithstanding of course, and we do get 4 hits in, but unfortunately only 1 penetration. The Albemarle finally decides to come out and play, and I switch to AP here. And again, bad ammunition choice. I really should have stuck to HE, as it would have been more consistent since the armor bound immediately angles towards me. But he's also shooting AP, so I am able to bounce his shells against my belt. And I finally switch back to HE here, but now he's turning broadside to get behind the island. So yeah, my ammunition selection has been pretty poor so far in this game. I'll claim that it's due to being only my second or third game in this ship, but yeah, that's not really a great excuse. But the HE damage isn't bad of course, and you can definitely just go for fires and HE pens if you like. Our North Carolina does take out the Albemarle in the end, but he's on low HP himself, and carrier planes are incoming. So we push forward here to help our North Carolina against the carrier strike. And we also have to make sure that we don't run into these torpedoes of course. There are 2 destroyers here in the C cap, and it also looks like there are 2 in B as well. Our Vaclin didn't manage to get the cap, and it looks like the enemy destroyers found him and unfortunately took him out. Of course, our North Carolina gets taken out by the enemy Amagi. There is a Maz here, so I'm going to try to help my Charles Martel out. We take our time to aim since we were unspotted, and once we know where he's going, we fire, and we were able to do 3.5k damage on him for our first salvo. We have to be careful of the Amagi on our broadside as well, so I'm wiggling and changing speed and trying to throw off his aim, while keeping up damage on the mast of course. We hit the mast again, and we avoid the Amagi's shells, so that's good. And I have to try to finish off the mast here, but he turns just as I fire, and so I end up missing. Our Charles Martel is also going down, and we are going to lose sight of the mast as soon as he does. But we fire where we think he'll be, and with this shot we actually do take out that enemy destroyer. Unfortunately, even with that kill, we've lost the lead, and our team is now down by a ship and about 130 points. The enemy has 2 of the 3 caps, they have 3 destroyers to our 2, and they still have a battleship. Our Kagero and Devonshire are pushing in from A though, so I've got to avoid the CV and the Amagi here, and along with our Hatsuharu, we have to hold on until the cavalry arrives against B. I angle against the CV strike, but also make sure I don't overturn and give the Amagi a good shot at me. Our CV dropped some fighters there, and so that definitely helped out as well. The enemy Vastras was visible for just a moment there, and we were able to get one salvo off before he disappeared. But we do get a few hits and a fire. And so now let's go ahead and line up and see if we can take a shot at the enemy Akizuki once he gets past that island. We do go dark here for a moment before firing our shells at the enemy Akizuki from stealth. And we do get him to just under 1.3k HP with our salvo. Our Kagero has also traded his ship for the enemy Akatsuki in B, so the Devonshire should be able to cap it out now and start taking the points back in our favor. My second salvo on the Akizuki straddles, as I'm also trying to avoid the shells incoming from the enemy Graf Spee and Amagi. Fortunately though, our CV finishes off that enemy destroyer. But now I'm in a pickle, because I have a Graf Spee and an Amagi shooting at me from different angles, and both of these ships will overmatch my bow. And to top it off, there's still a destroyer somewhere here who could be launching torpedoes at me. I'm trying to make sure I change course and speed and wiggle, but remember, the Surrey's maneuverability is pretty horrid. I do angle against the Spee, but I think he gets through my frontal plate anyway, but good thing it's only hit me for about 4k damage. The enemy Amagi was previously busy with our carrier, and I'm pretty lucky he had a more tempting target to shoot at. But our CV goes down, and that means the Amagi starts turning his guns on me. I've got the island between me and the Graf Spee now, but the Amagi still has me acquired. And there we go, the Amagi clocks me right through the bow. Luckily, that's not a citadel, as slowing down may have thrown off his aim, but still at least a couple of penetrations. I'm trying to use the island in front of me to make sure I get out of line of sight of both the Graf Spee and the Amagi, while launching my torpedoes. I get my port side torpedoes off, but the enemy Vastras pops up, so I decide to take a shot with just my front guns. And with the help of our Hatsuharu, we do get him down to just over 800 hit points. I turn behind the island to stay covered and drop my starboard torpedoes, and I also fire one more time on the Vastras. Unfortunately, my poor reaction to his turn allows him to get away. The Graf Spee eats one of my torpedoes and goes down, which really surprised me since he had his hydroacoustic search on. And the Amagi also eats one torpedo, and then another from our starboard launch, which allows me to get a Confederate achievement right before our Hatsuharu finishes him off. So that was really nice cross-torps between the two of us. So it's just a low HP Vastras and the enemy carrier left, so we really should have this in the bag. I decide to push into C here to see if we can cap it or force a fight with the Vastras. I'm guessing the CV is at the B7 area, so I'd like to take him out as well if I can. I'm still lit here, so my assumption is that the Vastras is either heading north along the 8 line, or if he was able to get ahead of me, he would be trying to get west using the BC corridor. I turn on my hydro here, as really the major threat to me right now is the destroyer torpedoes, and sure enough, we spot them early on and it's not a problem. I'm also no longer spotted, which is strange, and it makes me think that the Vastras may have gone west, and the island ahead of me is covering me from his vision. So I end up turning my guns that way as I push into the cap. But I'm spotted once again, and the cap is locked, so he has to be at the B7 or B8 area. I'm looking around, but I don't see anything. The enemy carrier is also trying to take out our Hatsuharu in the cap, probably an easier target since I've got decent AA and another cruiser nearby. So we're going to go ahead and keep moving forwards here and angling our ship in the relative direction of where we think the destroyer is. And there he is. Our Hatsuharu spots the Vastras as he clears the island, and we fire and finally take out that destroyer. So now it's a race to get to the enemy CV. And well, let's face it, this tub is not going to beat a Hatsuharu in a race. Nevertheless, I push straight to the nearest edge of the island to pincer the enemy CV with our destroyer friend. And in the meanwhile, let's see if we can snack on some more yummy planes. There we go. We're in firing range of the enemy planes almost as soon as they are launched. So we start shooting them down. And we also get the cap here for some bonus XP. These dive bombers are coming my way though, so I've got to dodge a little bit I guess. And we're going to continue to eat up the Parsifal's planes, but the Hatsuharu is definitely going to get to the main course before we do. And there he is, and he's going to finish off the game with his torpedoes. The enemy Parsifal is not going to be able to escape from these torpedoes, and so the Hatsuharu finishes it off. So let's take a look at the post-game results. We only did 101,000 damage in this game for a Confederate achievement, but we pretty much threw out everything and the kitchen sink. AP shells, HE shells, torpedoes, AA fire, secondaries, you name it, we did it, as you can see from the plethora of ribbons. But what really surprised me was the base XP of 2755, one of the highest base XP games I've had in randoms in recent memory. I had to wonder if the Surrey was just a bit faster to allow us to take out the enemy CV in the end if we could have broken 3000 base. But oh well, can't have it all. And we even made a nice chunk of credits here, 402,000 received, not including the combat mission bonuses. For anyone interested, here are the equipment and captain skills I use for the Surrey. Main armaments mod 1, engine room protection, aiming systems, and steering gears mod 1 to help with that slow rudder shift. For captain skills, I have gun feeder, priority target, adrenaline rush, superintendent, and concealment expertise on Andrew Cunningham, and he'll probably be better on a Royal Navy battleship due to his special talents, so I'll most likely end up moving him to the Lion once I get it. Anyway, for higher skilled captains, you can always add skills like greased gears, pyrotechnician, heavy AP, or top grade gunner, depending on your preference. So the Surrey in a nutshell. It's a heavyweight with a glass jaw. Essentially, the Surrey is a slight step up of the Devonshire, so it's an easy transition as you progress along the tech tree. However, it can be tricky as you are now facing higher tiered opponents. I do get consistent results with the ship, but haven't really had any huge damage games since it's difficult for me to put the Surrey into a high leverage situation without quickly getting blown out of the water. So I tend to play it a bit more carefully in most situations. But as long as you can use your concealment and map knowledge or awareness to position your ship where it can use its guns, I think the Surrey can really put out the damage. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you did, please do me a favor and hit the like button below or subscribe to the channel, and please join me again next week for more World of Warships videos. Thank you for watching and take care.